Hello, I think I'm ready to go again here. I was telling, we were on the page genres and creation stories as a kind of literature. Well, examples, e.g., that stands for exemplum gratis. You should know that by now. An example is one called Pangu. That should be in quotes. Pangu. Nobody takes it seriously, I don't think. I never heard anyone that did. But of the hundreds or dozens or hundreds of creation stories that are out there, it's one. It's a Chinese story. The Chinese had to have their version too. And it's got the figure of 18,000 years in it, the way I know. And there was this giant egg that broke apart. And on it goes. Normally I would read it to my students, but Pangu's blood becomes the rivers. His breath becomes the air. And the funny part is that his fleas become the Chinese. Well, anyway, I never ran into anybody that took that seriously, but I like to put that in there because, hey, that's one version. The Vikings have one, probably many. Well, there are two in the modern world that are taken very seriously. One of them, I give it a funny name. I call it From Genesis. Now, I put that in quotes. FR means from. I put that in quotes because it's just a story. It's not very long. Genesis I underline because that's a whole book. It's the first book in the Bible, probably most of you know. And there are many, many wonderful stories in Genesis. Well, at the beginning of Genesis, you'll find a creation story. And in that creation story, you'll find out about God. According to that God, you see, I treat him as a character. You can't really tell that story without talking about God. He did this. You get the number 6 plus 1 days, not 7. It's kind of a trick question. You can ask somebody, how long did it take God to create everything, according to Genesis? And they want to say 7 days. No, it was 6 plus 1. It's a trick question because he did his work in 6, and then on the 7th, according to that story, he rested, and we have the Sabbath. Now, to anybody out there who doubts the importance of this story, and there may be some say, oh, I'm not religious, that doesn't matter. Consider the fact that we've got a 7-day week, and how much of the world has a 7-day week. Come on, this is a very significant story. You can't call yourself well-educated, at least, if you don't know that story. Now, what you believe about it is that's up to you. Now, another one that is the other one that is taken so seriously, I call it Big Bang, but then I go up through the theory of evolution. They are actually complicated stories put together, and they are very, very hard to imagine. But then it's pretty hard to imagine God creating everything in 6 days. The Big Bang Theory has got numbers like 13 billion years, billion. Humans can't think of that, and that the universe was no bigger than the size of the head of a pin or something like that, and exploded and is still exploding. I mean, that is so hard to understand. I'll admit I don't understand it. I guess the laws of physics and mathematics says this, and I guess that it's still apparent that the universe is still exploding. I don't know. I'm not happily, in my case, for me, I studied the humanities. I'm an English major. These are stories, and I know the stories, many stories fairly well. I don't have to decide which one is true. There are so many people that you cannot have them both be true. Somehow they're just stumped on that one, and one or the other can only be true. Happily, I don't have to deal with that. It's up to you. But those are both very famous stories, and they have contended for about the last 150 years. Now, the Big Bang Theory, up through the theory of evolution, Darwin, the guy who came up with theory of evolution, didn't really say anything about the Big Bang Theory. They're different. But if you want to study them, I mean, I'm sure you could. If you go on Wikipedia and look them up, it'll tell you more. But in part of this theory and the Big Bang Theory and stuff, aside from the 13 billion years, I think the Earth is maybe 4 billion years old, according to that. I mean, there's geological evidence. That's part of the story. What really stands out, though, I like kids to know that there's this term, primordial soup. I suppose I should have put that in quotes. Primordial soup, that the seas, there was no life, but the Earth had water, and it had the right mixture of minerals. I may be butchering this theory, I don't know, and the right number of lightning strikes and enough time, and you finally had a molecule that could make itself over, an amino acid, DNA, and as soon as it could make itself over, then life was on its way. This is not a science class. You do with this what you want. But it is a creation story, and a very significant creation story. I'd even go so far to say, actually, that if you want to go into sciences, especially natural sciences, in the modern world, you're going to have to learn this and be fluent with it. Where I live, in this part of the world, the contention between these two is stronger, I think, than many places. But if you want to have a bright future in sciences, you're going to have to at least be able to talk this language. Dinosaurs are part of that story, and then cavemen. I mean, cavemen is just kind of a term, and I'll tomorrow. Well, actually, right now I'll deal a little bit more with cavemen. I'm going fast because this isn't really the humanities, just the fact that the story is there. All right, let's jump back. I got to watch the clock here a little bit. Let's jump back to the chronological survey of the humanities. I think it's 18.1. And all the way over to the left now, you wouldn't need to skip a line, I don't think. Put down a Roman numeral 1. The first period, we're going to go period by period. The prehistoric period, that's where we're going to start. And from now on, that's going to be PD, period. Well, that is, what I mean by prehistoric is before writing. All right, well, before writing, I want you to have the term Australopithecus. That creature was not human, and that's the genus name, not the species. Did not quite walk upright, small. There are umpteen documentaries. If you want to know more about this, go for it. Then eventually there's Homo Erectus, still not really human. Homo is our genus, but this is not our species. Erectus means he walked upright. There's fossil evidence of him. And then eventually we come to Homo Sapiens. Homo is our genus, and Sapiens is our species. Well, oh, I didn't write it on here. If you are interested in this, there is a movie called Missing Link. And if you'll go on YouTube, well, I guess that's where you are now, and search Missing Link movie, there you will see that it's on there in parts. And the 9th part of it, some years I show the 9th part of it, the very end, to my students. It proposes that Homo erectus was simply too gentle, not aggressive enough to survive among Homo sapiens. And right at the end, the very last of the Homo erectus is he's going to die because he cannot use a weapon. Now this is fiction. Well, it's done almost like a documentary, but go to it if you want. A lot of years I don't use it, but I want you to notice there. It's called Missing Link. It's a movie. You'll find a lot of other stuff. All right, that's it for today. I hope to see you tomorrow.